Hey everyone, let's start a weekend reading vlog. It's Saturday morning, still late in the morning, and I skipped running. I haven't been running in a few weeks probably. I don't feel so fit right now and I'm exhausted all the time, so I'm probably resting most of the weekend. I should go for walks and get some daylight, but I'm not sure how much of that will actually happen. So mostly reading is planned for the weekend, and since it's a 3-day weekend, I hope to get a lot of reading done. And I already finished a book this morning, or rather a novella, The Gurkha and the Lord of Tuesday. I started it 2 nights ago and finished it mostly at night, and this morning I read the rest. This 100-page novella is set in the future, somewhere in Kathmandu, and the world or everything has gone a little bit down the drain and the climate crisis exploded, so now everything is poisoned with nanites and people produce some form of different nanites to create microclimes. I'm not exactly 100% sure how it worked. Most of the book was read at night while I was trying to sleep, so I'm a little bit fuzzy on the details for how this actually worked, but it's also not explained in too much detail, so no boring technology stuff going on. It's mentioned and it's said how it works a little bit, but it's more of a background. This is how our society is set up right now. People have also something connected to their spine that instantly makes their body healthy. So whatever they do, the thing in the spine fixes it. And they have something they call an echo connected to their brain, or it's like a jellyfish. And so they can communicate with something that's called the virtuality. It's all a little bit background information as to how this society works. The story evolves around a jinn who wakes up after thousands of years of sleep and walks down a mountain, and who runs into this old man, and they start talking and form sort of a bond. The jinn is a king of Mars. I think he's sort of like a jinn of war, and he's spreading chaos, and he's looking for something to destroy and party. And so the old man says, I know a place, and they go to Kathmandu. We learn a lot about Kathmandu and the society there, because there is something in charge that's called karma. There's no money, there's only karma points, and karma is an AI that runs algorithms and awards people for good deeds, and if they do bad deeds they get karma points deducted. The idea sounds rather interesting, and that is something where I think you could really deep dive into this little novella about how the society is set up with the karma points and how everybody is cared for because they are part of the microclimate so that they can live. It's a give and take situation, and sort of sounds like paradise, like everybody is cared for. There's no real need. Everything your basic needs are met. And it does sound rather good, but the more we get into the novel and into why the old man thinks these people could be smited, it doesn't matter, it gets more and more interesting in seeing how this whole system was set up, how many flaws it still has, and what it does to the people. And I really enjoyed this short novella, especially for looking at how people react or feel in a world where they have everything. They should be happy, but they don't feel that much happy. And they could strive for more good deeds, but they don't have to. There's no need. And it's all rather interesting, and especially when it comes to the setting up of the system, how messed up all of that is and how unequal it still is. I really enjoyed this. I can highly recommend it as a quick read. For the rest of the day, after I have breakfast now and check in with everyone's reading plans for the weekend, I want to start Happy Hour. I really like the cover and I bought it on a whim, seeing it on a video like I do with most books these days, and I have forgotten what it's about, but Happy Hour sounds happy, so let's try and get this read on the weekend and maybe something else. Talk to you later. The fun part of going into a book blind is that you never know what you're going to get. This book is written diary style, meaning the chapters are dates. The book starts with 2 young women arriving in New York and subletting a room from someone in a house where there's a party, and this sets the tone. For the next few pages, I'm about 30 pages in, there's one party after another. They're constantly meeting people, talking about people they've met and how they interact. They're going to artsy events and kind of judging it or talking about it. It's a little bit critical or a comment on this New York scene and the party scene and people there and how they fit in or not fit in. It's rather interesting and pretentious at the same time. I can't really make up my mind if it's just grumpy old me talking that feels the pretentiousness and artificiality of it, or what, or if it really is. But there's a voice in my head that reminds me that most of my 20s were spent at parties talking to strangers. So I'm curious to see where it will go. Hey, let's have a little Sunday check on how things are going. I didn't really do the things I set out to do yesterday, or rather, things turned a little different way because a friend of mine called and she was in the area where I live and asked if I wanted to meet up. And so we went for a walk as it was nice and sunny outside, which was nice. And it made me realize something that I've been thinking about all week a little bit, about how the things I make time for and I don't make time for. I started to notice that I do make time for the things I enjoy in the day. And I always make sure to read in a day, and I always find time to watch TV and Netflix and things like that. I also find time for YouTube, not as much as I probably would like on a daily basis, but I always manage to do a little bit of everything I want to do and I enjoy doing. So I'm taking care of that. But what I've noticed, the more stressed I feel, is that I find it hard to make time for things that are good for me. And part of that is currently going for walks because it's cold and rainy and often it's dark when I'm done working. So most times I have during the week are in darkness to go for walks. And let's be honest, that's not the most thrilling adventure to have. And so I tend to skip on those things. I haven't been running in a while because the last times I went running, it didn't go so well. And then I got busy and I didn't make time to go on runs because it takes a little bit more time than do a 10-minute Tabata workout. I also skip out on exercise a lot lately. And those are the things that are good for me. I might not always enjoy them while I'm doing them, but I know overall I feel better when I do them. And recently I've been putting a lot of those things off. The walks, the running, the exercise, or just doing the minimum of what I can do, if at all. And while that is better than nothing, it's still not the same as doing the proper exercise and getting the benefit that I get out of exercise. I know it's not the same for everyone, but I'm just talking for myself. And I also notice that it's the same with cleaning. I'm so low on energy most of the days, and cleaning really isn't on top of my priorities right now because it just feels exhausting. But I know that I will be better after I cleaned, or rather, a clean environment is good for me. It makes me feel better, and it's probably healthier than to live in dust and all of those things. But I've noticed that I rather make time to read more or watch another episode of something than make time to clean. Not a good thing to do. But that's why it was good that my friend called yesterday and we went out for a walk and we talked about this a little bit and how hedonistic and privileged that is to have no obligations other than work in my life right now, because that's all I need to do. Everything else is for my own pure enjoyment. And it's, I don't know, sounds a little bit great and not great. I don't know. So we had a nice chat. I got home, changed the bed sheets, feeling good about that, and hopefully cleaning a little bit. Not today, but tomorrow maybe. And because today I'm really, really feeling super exhausted. I managed to do some exercise this morning and then I had breakfast, watched some YouTube, and now I just want to snuggle up with the book, happy hour, and read some more of that. I'm 80 pages in so far, nothing much, but partying happens. There's a lot of meeting people, and I get the sense of it's analyzing or criticizing or judging the party scene and the artsy crowd, the writers, all of that in New York. And how superficial it is and how everybody has the same agenda and is not really interested in people. That's the vibe I'm getting so far, but I don't really know if there's a real story in it. The main character or the narrator, whose sort of diary entries we are reading, is, I don't know, rather flat. All of them are rather flat. There's no depth in the characters that I can find just now. So I don't know, but that could also be just part of the intention of the book. But I'm going to read more of that, and I'll check in with you again tomorrow because daylight is really sparse today and I don't think there will be more daylight today. But I'm not working tomorrow and I hopefully finish the book tomorrow. And it's Monday. And I know I said I was going to clean today, but I might have missed that window of opportunity when I stayed in bed to finish happy hour. So let's talk about the book. I think it's hit me at the wrong time. I think it's not a book for plot lovers. Definitely not. There is no plot. The story continues, or the chapters continue to follow through the summer and follow them going to parties, meeting people, and having fights and successful events and stories and things like that. So nothing much happens. It's more a concise look at how they party and how they feel. It's judgmental about or critical, probably both, critical and judgmental about the young art scene and writer scene in New York and how people live there, while at the same time glorifying it and enjoying the inconsequential or superficial life. I really don't want to sound too judgmental, but with them being judgmental, they also made me sound judgmental. So that is a part of the book that I found rather tedious, and after a while it got boring. On the other side, I think this book is really interesting if you haven't read a lot of books about young women partying in New York and having the time of their lives, taking advantage of men and how the society treats them. What I really like about this book is the commentary it gives on the expectations that society has on young women, the limitations it set them, and also the fears they have being out in public, and how men treat or react to women outside in, let's say, the wild. Basically, that all represented rather well. I think this book is really interesting for younger people who may not have experience in partying life in New York and are curious about that and reading about that, or in general gives an insight into what it means to be a young, beautiful woman in a city where everybody tries to take advantage of you and you're not allowed to say anything back. And this is what the novel does. It also addresses the topic of it being a diary and her writing a diary and how it becomes published. It's part of the process. It may sound new, but I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure I've read that before. So everything in this book doesn't feel new to me, but it might appeal to a younger audience, to different people with different backgrounds and people who really like character-driven books and action-driven books that are not really action because they're on the go all the time and they're talking a lot. Yeah. Overall, I think I enjoyed reading the book for the fact that I know what I've read, and despite it being tedious, I mean, I read it on a weekend, so it can't be that bad. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about something else. Yesterday, I also started Essentialism while going on my walk because I didn't feel like any of the fiction books I had, and I thought some non-fiction as background noise would be nice. So I decided for Essentialism, and so far I'm halfway through. I'm hoping to finish on today's long walk because I don't want to skip that as it's sunny outside. But mostly everything he says feels familiar. I've probably heard it in various different other situations and connections, probably going back to this book, but still it's nothing new and essential in a way. Essential. Anyways, it's mostly saying you have to make decisions, decide on what you want to prioritize, and then go for that. And basically decide beforehand and then follow that rule, sort of. It's a nice reminder to make choices and then follow up on those choices and not get swept away by the current of life and everyone's demands on yourself and your time. It's also rather easy to listen to for me because a lot of it feels familiar and I don't feel like taking notes and getting a lot of insight out of it, at least for the first half. Maybe the second half gives me something that surprises me. But for now, it's an easy to listen to, short-lived non-fiction book that reminds me of what essentialism is and what an essential life means. So I'll tell you more when I finish the book, and that will probably be the end of the vlog. So see you later. Okay, that took longer than I expected. It was about 3 hours and not 2. I was kind of an hour off, but I went on a 2-hour walk, finished listening to the whole book just now. And like I said, essentialism is a repetition of a lot of things that I heard before. And I think it is a good reminder of things. I often think with all the self-improvement and productivity and all the nonfiction that I listen to and enjoy, I get good tips out of them, but you can forget what you know. And with this, it was a nice reminder to choose and prioritize, a way to make trade-offs, that you can't have everything, also to say no sometimes, and how important it is to make a decision and just stick with it. And also habits. I think what I need to really do is get back into my morning exercise habit and not skip things anymore. Hopefully by the end of the year, I'm back on track a little bit more with that. So that's a good takeaway for me. I think this book will be really interesting for people who are new to the topic of minimalism, essentialism, habits, and productivity. But if you've dabbled in this for a while, I think this might also sound repetitive for you, because this book is from 2011, I think. And so it has been around, and a lot of ideas were taken from it, good ideas. So it's not bad ideas. It's just, if you have read quite a few things in the topics or on the topics, then you might have heard a lot of the stories. It's very anecdotal. I like listening to him narrate it. It's, like I said, an easy, short-lived audiobook to listen to. So, looking back at the weekend, I had a very good, relaxing weekend. I prioritized reading, which is nice. I prioritized resting, which was definitely necessary. I could do more, but I have to go back to work tomorrow. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyways. But I really enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed the vlog. Let me know if you have read any of the books I talked about, or have any recommendations on whatever you've read lately that was good and think I might like. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.